welcome. Hey y'all, Davis-Pierre here, board certified internist, founder of drpierreblog.com, and welcome to the 55th edition of the Lunch and Learn with Davis-Pierre. For those who've been following me, I know it's been a while since I've been on here. Last time I checked, I think the last one I did was in like October. And first of all, I want to apologize. I should not be making y'all wait that long for a Lunch and Learn series, but I said, you know what, let me go knock this out today. I had a blog post last week, and now we're doing the Lunch and Learn. We're bringing it back. It will be weekly to bi-weekly again. I'll kind of decide how the things kind of go on from here on out. But again, thank you for joining. Today's going to be a good one. Today, episode 55, I'm going to be looking forward on autism and fatherhood. And if you've been catching, for some reason, if you're one of my favorite ones, right, and you watch all of my Lunch and Learns, you know I've done one pretty similar last year for my daughter. And quick background check again, if you don't know, my oldest daughter is autistic. She is 5, going on 6 years old. So excited about that. And April is Autism Awareness Month. So I wanted to make this almost like a yearly series where every year around this time I'm going to be talking about what autism, what fatherhood, especially with an autistic child, means to me. So we're going to have a great discussion. If you have not had a chance this week, we actually had my wife, who's also the CEO of Autism in Black, on the podcast episode. So if you have not had a chance, check that out. In fact, let's see here. LunchLearnPod.com, that is the website to get the most recent episode for your listening pleasure. I'm available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you like to listen to podcasts. I'm there. I'm also on YouTube as well, where we do publish the podcast episodes. And again, that was episode 55. So kind of going back to that thought at hand, right? April began being such an important month for me and my family because we do have a daughter who's autistic, right? Again, her name is Malia, and throughout this episode, I'm gonna have some pictures of her, just kind of going through the motions on what that means for me as a father, as a physician, and having a child who is autistic, and the sheer importance of that. I know how these lunch learners do. Always got to give our friends some time to get a chance to watch this. Let's see. All right, perfect. So we're good to go there. And I'm actually using this new software, so you're gonna see me move my head to the left a little bit, but that's just so I can do some really, really cool things. Like I said, it's been a while, and I've learned a lot since last time we did Lunch and Learn, and a lot of things are going on, so we're going to see a lot more interaction, especially with these live videos and pictures, and even some videos sometimes. We won't have a video on this episode, but we'll have some pictures, we'll have some videos, and really make it engaging for you guys who take the time out to listen and watch and learn during your lunch break, or especially if you happen to catch this later on this evening. Again, much appreciated here on this end, right? So as a father, right, and going on to this past year since the last time we actually talked about her, my daughter has just been absolutely amazing, especially in some of the strides that she's been making in regards to her speech, in regards to her just social behavior. I actually just recently, yesterday, picked up a trophy. She was actually doing soccer over this past couple of weeks, right? So, and which, again, something that, especially for our autistic children, especially depending on where you're at as far as the spectrum is concerned, it can be something that, can be very daunting, right? Like being around a lot of people that you don't necessarily know, but having fun at the same time, right? And it was absolutely amazing. Like I said, if I get a chance, I'm going to be able to throw a video on there, I will. Just kind of discuss that aspect of it, right? Going up and again to this past year and watching how my daughter kind of interacts with her younger siblings, right? Her little brother, little sister, who are twins, has been absolutely phenomenal. And I could tell her speech and like how many words she uses is like gone through the roof. She's much more interactive, and it's to the point where it's kind of funny because she'll be kind of teaching my little son and daughter words and colors and everything else, and then you could tell they're just all learning at the same time, right? Which is just a beautiful thing to see, right? So again, I'm gonna have some pictures of just to kind of talk about the progression, right? When she was young, right? So this is her, right? So she was about my wife was probably between 1 to 2 years old, right? With her Lisa Simpson, right? Yellow, right? And this is the time when my wife, again, the CEO of Autism and Black, and again, I'll put her information in the comments, and if she's watching, she can put her information in the comments as well. This is where this is where my wife first noticed that she just wasn't acting at the same age appropriate developmental marks, right? Where she wasn't as interactive, she wasn't as talkative, and again, kudos to my wife, right? Who again, licensed mental health counselor, who was the first one to even pick up that there was just something different about her that we needed to address quickly. And when you get a chance to check out the podcast episode this week, she'll kind of address some of the issues as far as just getting the diagnosis of it, right? Like, again, I didn't know. Again, I'm a physician, right? But I'm an internal medicine physician, right? So I deal with adults, right? I don't deal with kids and developmental behavior. So a lot of that was all foreign to me. And she really took the reins and was, first and foremost, there at the doctor's appointments, they're pushing the doctors and the therapists and everybody else to really kind of get the ball rolling, because we understand, especially when it comes to autism, and my wife could tell it much better than me. When it comes to autism, the treatment, right, is early prevention, right? Like early not prevention, but early treatment, right, is extremely key for your kids, especially when they grow up, right? And it's very noticeable, very evident, right, that those kids who did not get the treatment when they should have, or as early as they should have, right, are shown to be behind, right? And again, yes, my daughter, she's 5 going on 6, right? If I put her in a group of 5 to 6 year olds who aren't autistic, you'll notice a difference, right? You notice she isn't as talkative. She's a little bit more recluse behind it, but it's great to see that she kind of lights up, right? Especially depending on where she was at, right? Exactly. Early intervention is key. Most importantly, thank you for the comment, and leave your website. Perfect. If you can, thank you from that standpoint there. So just kind of seeing her kind of grow up, and get for this child who was like really ill, right? And then I think she's like 2 to 3, right? Again, just kind of this amazing kid who you could tell wants to be loved, and wants to do what other kids do, right? But just doesn't have the desire, right? And I think that was something that I had to learn, as a father, as a physician, right? Like, yeah, she may not necessarily want to do the things that the developmental milestone says she should be doing, right? And being okay with it, and just talking to other fathers and talking to other just parents of autistic children. That can sometimes be a frustration, right? Where you may want your child to be doing certain things, to be hitting certain caveats at certain points, and they're just not doing it, right? And that sometimes can be troubling and sometimes upsetting, right? And that's something that I've had to learn over the years as well, to understand that, my daughter's going to go at her own pace. I got to be happy that she's going at her own pace, and I got to be there to kind of support her in that aspect as well, right? So this was, again, I want to say the 3 to 4 year old range at this point here. I'm actually dropping her off at school. She goes to Palmy School of Autism, which is a lifesaver, right? Like, again, Maria, if you can put their information in the comments as well. They've been absolutely amazing as far as seeing the growth in terms of providing therapy, schooling, structure, something that, especially when you have a child with autism, they really need, right? Like really, really, really need. Stress the importance of having that structure, and not only having a structure when they're at school, but making sure we continue that at home. And that's where my wife really just like, blows it out the water, right? Because she makes sure that the learning doesn't stop when she gets out of school, right? Especially for your autistic children who may be behind when it comes to certain subjects, when it comes to certain, again, speech is one thing, right? That my daughter kind of falls behind, a little social interaction. She gets very nervous sometimes around people she does not know. I can tell you beforehand, right, that she used to be able to kind of just almost go in her own shell, right, and never want to come out of it, regardless of how much time you gave her. But now you can tell it doesn't take long, especially when I talk about her at the soccer field, right? It does not take long for her to like open up, right, to strangers, right, which is again absolutely beautiful. Again, shout out to Primary School Autism for that in that regards. I'm looking for a new clinic. I don't have I don't have a clinic no more. I work right now in the hospital, so I'm just in the hospital. So I don't even see patients in the clinic no more. But thank you for looking up for me. Like if you want, for example, like there's a new doctor who they just hired, Bethesda just hired at the clinic I was working at, right? So call my office, or I guess the old office, and get in touch with them. New doctor, and Haitian doctor too, right? So you kill two birds with one stone from that standpoint there. This is again the little one. She was, I think, it was like 4 per the sign, right? Turning 4. Not sure why she's crying, but she goes through these bouts, right? And I think that's one of the things that I've noticed, especially over this past year, is that she's letting more emotions out. And again, it's nothing that you have to necessarily do to her. Like she's just letting you know when she's sad. She's letting you know, when she's tearful, and it's just very interesting to kind of see her go through those motions. Like, okay, all right. It's very, very, very nice to see her kind of do that, and a lot of times she kind of equates it to, especially when she's watching her shows, right? Especially she's a big Disney fan, right? Big fan of Disney. So when she's watching Disney, she screams, she yells, she's happy, she's sad, and so it's just very fun again to see her and to see the amount of work that the Primary School Autism and my wife and a little bit of me have done to kind of get her to that point, right? So definitely excited about that. Her turning 5 as well. We take pictures. My wife's a picture person, so she takes pictures like all the time. Can't be like regular photo pictures because we take plenty of those, but she always take like photo shoots. Shout out to Melvin's Hugh, that's my photographer as well. And this is her a couple weeks ago. She was doing her thing at soccer as well. Like I said, she loved it, right? My daughter is one of those ones who is very active and loves to be active. So she's always like playing sports, running around the house for sure, running around the backyard. So we put her into soccer because we wanted to kind of see how well she would take to it, and she absolutely loved it, right? So again, that's definitely something that we're going to make sure keeping her active, because again, it kind of kills two birds with one stone. Not only does it keep her kids active, right, because kids should always be active, but it also allows her to kind of open up and be comfortable around people she may not necessarily know, right? So definitely happy about that. Like I said, I had a great time. I became like a soccer dad on Saturdays. I was only able to see like I think a couple of her games because I'd have to work on the weekends, but the ones I did was definitely good to see from that standpoint there. And then I talked about Autism Black. That's my wife's company, and it's a company that really focuses on, I think, a population that gets neglected, especially within the autism community, and it's the parents and the caretakers, right? Especially for our Black families, right? And being a physician, right? Being a licensed mental health counselor, right? We still ran into a lot of roadblocks, right? And again, we talk about this on the podcast, right? Like again, let me put the link up there for you. So we talk about that on the podcast, right? Lunch Learn Pod, episode 60. You'll see once you go there. But we talk about that on the podcast where even though we had these degrees and this career, the amount of roadblocks we still face just to get a diagnosis, get treatment, get the proper treatment, get timely treatment, right, was difficult, right? So if we're facing it, right, like if we're, again, a physician, licensed mental health counselor, like that's what they do, right? Like if we're facing those issues, we already know the families that are out there who are also afflicted with this is facing just much more trouble, if not more, right? Like I said, again, we're fortunate, right, that we stay in South Florida, right? We're fortunate that we're familiar with Palmer School of Autism, right? I'm fortunate, again, that my wife is, that's what she does, especially when it comes into the field of autism, right? But we know there's a lot of families that isn't, right? So she formed this company, again, to really focus on the parents and the caretakers of those who necessarily don't get the support that they get, right? Whether it be mental support, structural support, like how to do, right? Like, so it's just something that we definitely wanted to make sure we hit home moving forward. So again, check out episode 60 at the link below, lunchlearnpod.com, and we have actually a free checklist in there for parents, especially of kids who, you know what, because you may be asking yourself this question, right? Like, my kid doesn't talk as much as they should, right? Or my kid is pretty quiet or pretty kept to himself more than used to, right? And most importantly, right, and I think this is something that Maria talked about on the podcast, where she said, my kid acts out, right? And I'm not sure why they're acting out, right? And for a lot of times, especially in the African American community, right, for our kids, right, when we act out, right, we kind of get labeled as troublemakers, bad kids, and this, and that. Whereas a lot of these kids are going undiagnosed to be on the spectrum, right? And because they're going undiagnosed to be on the spectrum, right? Remember we talked about it, right? Early intervention is key, right? If they're not being diagnosed early enough, they're not being treated early enough. If they're not being treated early enough, then the problems that they're having just continue to grow, and it takes longer to kind of correct, right? Like I said, my daughter's been doing therapy, whether it be occupational therapy, speech therapy, something in that, shape or form, right? Since she was about 18 months, right? Normally, especially for the autism community, right? They don't even like let you do stuff until you're like 2 years old, 3 years old, right? So we got ahead of it very early, right? Because we were fortunate that my wife knew what she was talking about, right? I didn't know what she was talking about. I didn't know what she was talking about, but she knew what she was talking about, right? So because we were fortunate enough in that manner, it's extremely important for us to make sure we reach out, right? And that's what we're doing with our company, right? We're reaching out to a community that we know usually gets the short end of the stick in these things, right? I can tell you from a medicine standpoint, and you've heard me talk about it before, whether I'm talking about hypertension, whether I'm talking about blood pressure issues, whether I'm talking about cholesterol, whether I'm talking about obesity, pick a disease that I'm talking about, and a lot of times it tends to affect us, right, our community, much worse than others, right? So again, and autism is no different, right? And so that's why we're here, and that's why we're going to continue to push forward and reaching out and getting the word out that it's important, right? It's important to diagnose, it's important to recognize, but it's also important to take care of those who got to take care of those kids, right? So if you have an autistic child, autistic family member, autistic relative, or you're not sure, right? You just think that something is off with your child, right? Check out her website, autisminblack.org. In fact, I'll put it up here. Give me a second. Checking that. So that's the link to her checklist. But just check out the website in general, autisminblack.org. To get some up-to-date information on what it means to take care of not only the person with autism, right, but also to take care of those who have to take care of them, right. So again, first of all, I want to appreciate you guys for sticking with me. I know it's been a long time. I like Fridays. Fridays may be our day we do our lunch and learns back again. Friday 1 o'clock. You remember we used to do it like Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12:30. But 12:30, I'm usually in a meeting, at 12 to 1 for the time frame. So, but I like 1 o'clock. So let's see. I'm gonna see you guys next week, episode 56. But again, and if you catch this on the replay, this is also going to be on the website. It's also going to be on YouTube as well, right? So, and again, go ahead, if you have not, go ahead, get a chance to subscribe to my YouTube page as well. You guys have a great, blessed day, and I'm going to see you guys next week. Bye.